Now, let's get real for a minute. We've all been sold a bill of goods about this Jesus guy. We got the paintings, the robes, the whole superhero story. But what if I told you he was slangin', the most potent spiritual hack ever? And he buried the lead not in some complicated rule book, but in two of the simplest, most gangster words in the universe. I am. That's it. That's the whole key. Not I was. Not I might be. Not I hope to be one day. I am. Jesus wasn't just talking about himself. He was throwing us the cheat code for the simulation, showing us how to tap into the ultimate Wi-Fi signal, the collective consciousness itself. We're about to crack open what that really means. This ain't church talk. This is about where your power actually lives. It's about realizing that every time you say, I am tired, or I am broke, or I am blessed, you ain't just describing yourself. You're programming the universe. Jesus knew this. He was the ultimate consciousness programmer. So, if you're ready to ditch the small-time identity and step into the infinite, I am, that you truly are, and see how that wakes up the whole world, you better lean in. 'Cause this is about to flip the script on everything you thought you knew. And when this lights that fire in your gut, don't just sit on it. Let the algorithm know this hit home, smash that like button, drop a comment with the number 7, and subscribe. This ain't just a channel, it's a collective. It matters. So, you in. So let's break down that first monumental piece, the very bedrock of it all, as the I am is your divine trigger. Now, when we talk about a trigger, what comes to mind? Maybe the trigger of a gun, right? Something that sets off a powerful, almost instantaneous reaction. Or maybe these days, a trigger warning, something that cues up an old, familiar pain. But I'm talking about a different kind of trigger entirely. This is the trigger that doesn't release a bullet but releases you. It doesn't set off a trauma, it sets off your truth. This I am is that sacred switch, built right into the fabric of your being, that the moment you consciously touch it, it fires you straight out of the dream of separation and into the living reality of your oneness with God. Think about how you use those words all day, every day, completely on autopilot. I am stressed. I am running late. I am not good at this. You're just slinging those phrases around, not even realizing you're holding a live wire. You're using the most powerful creative force in existence, the very name God gave to Moses. I am what I am, and you're using it to build yourself a prison. You're taking the divine trigger, and you're aiming it straight at your own feet. Because every I am statement is a declaration to the universe. It's you saying, this is what I consent to be. This is the reality I am authorizing. This is the role I am accepting. And the universe, that infinite, neutral field of consciousness, just says, okay, you're the boss. If you say I am limited, then limited you shall be. I just reflect what you claim as your truth. But here's where Jesus, the ultimate master of this law, steps in. He wasn't walking around saying, I am the Messiah and you're not. He was demonstrating the correct use of the trigger. When he said, I am the light of the world, I am the way, I am the resurrection and the life, he wasn't claiming a special title for one special guy. He was showing the posture. He was illustrating what happens when a human being stops identifying with the story of the body, the circumstances, the personal history, and instead, boldly, unflinchingly, aligns that I am with qualities of the divine itself. He was pulling the trigger on his Christhood, and the power that exploded forth healed the sick, multiplied loaves, and calmed seas. Your I am is that same trigger. It's your point of access. Before the thought, before the feeling, before the circumstance, there is the pure I, the aware presence that is reading these words right now. That is your ground of being. The trick, the practice, is to gently, consistently unhook your I am from the passing show of conditions and anchor it back to its source. You stop saying, I am angry, and you simply acknowledge, I am, and there is a feeling of anger passing through me. You cease declaring, I am a failure, and you state, I am, and a project did not go as planned. This tiny, monumental shift is you taking your finger off the trigger of illusion and resting it on the trigger of your freedom. It's the difference between being the storm and being the sky that holds the storm. When you do this, you are no longer a victim of the world you see. You are the silent, sovereign witness from which it all arises. And in that silence, after you've stopped firing the I am at false idols, you begin to feel it. A warmth, a presence, a certainty that has nothing to do with external proof. That's the trigger being pulled in the right direction. That's the I am connecting to its own infinite source. And in that connection, it's not creating something new, but revealing what has always, eternally, been true. And that revelation of what has always been true, that's the game he was playing. Which brings us right to the next mind bender. Ross Jesus was a consciousness hacker. Now, hold on. I know that term might sound a little edgy, maybe even disrespectful to some, but hear me out. A hacker, in the purest sense, is someone who understands a system so deeply, so intimately, that they can bypass its superficial rules and operate it on a foundational level. They see the source code. They don't just use the program, they reprogram it. And when you look at the works of Jesus through that lens, not as magic but as mastery, you see a being who wasn't begging a distant God for favors. He was demonstrating a fluent, operational understanding of the very source code of reality, consciousness itself. Think about the miracles. We've spiritualized them into oblivion, made them these untouchable, holy events. But what if they were live demonstrations? Think of it like a master programmer walking into a room, looking at a buggy, glitchy program, say a withered hand, a stormy sea, a lack of food, and instead of praying for a new program, he simply inputs a direct command that overrides the false data. He saw the sickness, the lack, the fear, not as solid, unchangeable things, but as states of collective belief, as agreed upon glitches in the human operating system. His healings weren't about muscle and bone, they were about identity. He was showing that when you change the foundational thought, the I am sick code, the physical manifestation has no choice but to update to match the new, corrected software. He hacked the local belief of a diseased body by asserting the universal truth of wholeness. And the parables, those weren't just sweet stories for Sunday school. They were strategic data packets designed to bypass the firewall of people's rigid, intellectual understanding and plant themselves directly into the heart of their intuition. He spoke in code, in metaphor, so that only those who were truly ready to receive the update could decrypt the meaning. He said, "The kingdom of God is within you." That's not a location, that's an access point. He was giving them the IP address to the server. He was pointing past temples and rituals, straight to the internal motherboard where connection happens. But his ultimate hack, his most brilliant piece of code, was the I am statements we just talked about. In his time, claiming I am with certain qualities was seen as blasphemy because I am was recognized as the unutterable name of God. It was the system's root administrator password, and Jesus calmly and repeatedly entered it. He didn't ask permission from an external authority. He operated from the authority of his own realized identity as that I am. He was logged in as the admin, showing everyone else that the user profile, the limited identity of sinner, outcast mortal, was just a guest account with self-imposed restrictions. His entire ministry was a tutorial, a series of white hat hacks to show humanity that the system was rigged from the start in our favor. The limitations, the sickness, the scarcity, the hatred, these were all viruses introduced by the ego, running on the low-level software of separation. He was the living proof that you could crash that program and reboot into the native, eternal program of oneness, of love, of infinite possibility. He wasn't collecting followers to worship the hack. He was trying to teach them how to do it themselves, to access the same root directory, to realize that the Christ wasn't a person, but the yes process of consciousness recognizing itself in the mirror of another. And that right there is the critical takeaway. This process, this recognition, isn't a passive thing. It's actively creative. It's generative. Because once you understand that you're working with the root code, you got to get real about your own daily inputs. This brings us to the practical, moment-by-moment weight of our third point. Your words are programming reality. See, the hacker knows the code isn't just something you access in deep meditation and then forget about. The code is being written, compiled, and executed with every single thought you endorse, every feeling you entertain, and most powerfully, with every word you allow to cross your lips. Your mouth isn't just a hole in your face for eating and breathing, fam. It's a command line interface. It's the direct terminal where the spirit, that I am, presence, manifests as sound, as vibration, as a creative decree into this dimension. You are, literally, speaking your world into existence. Most of us are just doing it unconsciously, like a toddler randomly mashing keys on a keyboard, and then being shocked and upset by the nonsense that pops up on the screen. Let's break it down. When you say, "I am so broke," you aren't just describing a temporary bank balance. You are taking the sacred, infinite I am, the name of the Creator, and you are binding it, chaining it to the concept of lack, of limitation, of not enough. You are issuing a divine command for limitation. You are telling the omnipotent field of consciousness, my fundamental truth, my I am truth, is broke, make it so. And the universe, being a perfect and obedient servant to your declared truth, will get to work arranging circumstances, opportunities, and encounters that prove to you just how broke you are. It will hide resources, dissolve opportunities, and magnify every bill because you've given it a job to do, to manifest the truth of I am broke. Flip it. The same law is in ruthless, neutral effect when you dare, and it is a dare, a brave act of rebellion against the evidence of the senses, to say, I am provided for. You're not lying. You're not engaging in wishful thinking. If I am is your connection to the infinite source, then what can possibly be lacking? You are speaking from a deeper reality than the bank statement. You are issuing a command from the admin account, overriding the low-level, not enough program. You are aligning your speech, that creative vibration, with the eternal truth of supply, and that same obedient universe must then rearrange, must open channels, must deliver the proof of that provision. It has no choice. It responds to the vibration you emit. This is why complaining is so spiritually toxic. It's not just a bad attitude, it's an act of world building. You are building a world of frustration and injustice with every grumble, gossip. You're not just talking about a person, you're weaving a web of separation and judgment that you yourself will get stuck in. Your words are the bricks and mortar of your lived experience. Jesus knew this. He said, by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. He wasn't talking about a final judgment from a sky god. He was stating the mechanical law of cause and effect in the realm of consciousness. You justify, make right, make real the reality you speak, or you condemn, seal into limitation the reality you declare. So the practice becomes one of radical vigilance. It's catching that I am so sick and tired before it fully leaves your lips and shifting it to I am whole, and this body is experiencing a temporary sensation. It's stopping that this always happens to me narrative and choosing instead I am guided and I am open to a new outcome. You start to see your speech not as a report on reality, but as the very tool that sculpts it. You begin to choose words that align with the truth you wish to inhabit, not the illusion you seem to be stuck in. This is programming. This is where the rubber meets the road. Every sentence is a line of code. The question is, what world are you writing for yourself today? A buggy, glitchy simulation of lack and fear, or a flowing, harmonious experience of the kingdom that's been planted within you, waiting to be spoken into full bloom? And speaking of that kingdom within, that brings us to the heart of the illusion that makes all this programming feel so real, so isolating, and so heavy in the first place. Because if your words are programming reality, who or what are you programming it for? This separate you that seems to be running the show. That's the grand trick. That's the source code error we were born into. So let's get crystal clear on Keynote number 4 Rs. There's no separation in the one mind as. This is the big one. This is the paradigm-shattering realization that changes everything. We are walking around convinced we are these isolated units of awareness locked in a bag of skin, having a private experience over here while everyone else is having their private experience over there. We think consciousness is a product of our individual brains. But what if that's the core misunderstanding? What if consciousness isn't in you, but you are in consciousness? What if there is only one mind, one infinite field of aware presence, and what we call my mind and your mind are just localized points of focus within that one infinite ocean? Not separate waves, but the same water temporarily appearing as a wave with a unique shape and perspective. This isn't just poetic philosophy. This is the foundational law. What a collective consciousness we talk about isn't a bunch of separate minds holding a conference call. It is the only mind there is. Your sense of a private, separate self, the ego, is the filter that makes it feel like you're alone. It's like a single cell in your body declaring itself an independent republic, convinced its well-being has nothing to do with the liver or the heart. It's a useful fiction for navigating the physical world, but a spiritual catastrophe when you mistake it for your true identity. Because when you operate from that separate self-mindset, every single one of your I am statements is a declaration of independence from the whole. I am better than them. I need to get mine. It's the wave fighting the ocean, claiming its own water supply. Jesus' entire message was a laser beam aimed at this illusion. He didn't say, "My Father and I are close." He said, "I and the Father are one." One, not two things in harmony, but one single substance. He then immediately extended that to us, that they may be one, as we are one. He was pointing past the appearance of multiplicity to the unbroken substance of being. His healing miracles weren't him, a separate holy man, sending power to a separate sick person. They were demonstrations of what happens when one point in the one mind recognizes the wholeness in another point, thereby dissolving the illusory belief in sickness that had temporarily formed there. He saw the leper not as a separate entity with a disease, but as the Christ, the perfect idea of God, momentarily obscured by a collective belief. His recognition of the truth restored the appearance to match the reality. This is why your I am is so powerful and why misusing it is so destructive. You are not a tiny user in a vast system. You are the system itself, having a focused experience. When you say, "I am angry," you are not a soul contaminated by a passing emotion. You are the one mind, momentarily focusing its infinite light through the prism of a story called anger. The anger isn't in you, you are in the one mind, and it contains the appearance of anger. This shift is everything. It means your healing isn't about fixing a broken self. It's about the one mind correcting a misperception within itself. Your abundance isn't about a separate you getting more stuff. It's about the infinite supply of the one expressing itself at your point of awareness. Your sense of loneliness is the one forgetting it is the all. When you get this, well, not intellectually, but in your bones, the whole game changes. You stop trying to connect it to God as if crossing a bridge. You realize you're swimming in God. The person next to you isn't a stranger, they're the one mind, looking back at you from a different angle. Your enemies, your struggles, your fears, they're all within the one, appearing as contrast, calling the one to recognize itself more fully. There is no outside. There is no other. There's just the I am, experiencing itself in infinite, beautiful, sometimes challenging variations. Your liberation comes when you stop identifying as the variation and remember you are the canvas upon which the entire painting is appearing. And that remembrance, that shift from identifying as the brushstroke to knowing yourself as the canvas, that's not a private event. It can't be. Because if there's only one canvas, waking up in one corner of it changes the tension, the texture, the potential of the whole thing. This is where your personal journey explodes into cosmic significance. This is the ripple effect of truth. So let's lock in on Keynote 5. There's Awakening Yourself Awakens the Collective. Now, don't get it twisted. This ain't about being a spiritual superhero where you get your enlightenment badge and then go around saving all the poor, sleeping souls. That's still the ego in a fancy costume. This is about mechanics, pure cause and effect in the realm of the one mind. Think of it like this. Imagine the collective consciousness as a vast, still lake. Every individual mind, operating under the hypnosis of separation, is like a pebble dropped into that lake, creating ripples of fear, of lack of judgment, of conflict. These ripples intersect, amplify and create the choppy, turbulent waters we call the world. It feels chaotic, but it's just the sum total of every separate pebble drop. Now through this work, you start to remember you're not a pebble. You're a point within the water itself. You cease the frantic dropping of pebbles. You stop emitting those vibrations of I am separate, I am threatened, I am lacking. You become still. In that profound inner stillness, where you are just abiding as the I am, anchored to the source, you are no longer adding to the turbulence. You become a point of clarity in the lake, but it goes way beyond just not making things worse. In that stillness, a different kind of ripple emanates. A ripple of coherence, a vibration of wholeness. It's a silent, powerful frequency of recognition, the recognition of unity. That frequency doesn't battle the chaotic ripples, it doesn't argue with them. It simply moves through them, and where it passes, it has a harmonizing effect. It's like a tuning fork for the soul of the world. This is the hidden meaning behind the peace that passeth all understanding. It's not a passive feeling, it's an active, broadcasted state of being that literally, metaphysically, pacifies the field around it. When you heal your own sense of separation, you are not just healing your mind. You are healing a segment of the one mind, a segment that was tangled in a knot of illusion. As that knot untangles within you, the entire fabric of the mind becomes that much smoother, that much more luminous. It's not that you're sending love to someone across the world. It's that by embodying love, by being a clear vessel for the one's nature, you are strengthening the signal of love within the one and only field we all share. You make it easier for the person across the world to tune in to that same frequency because you've just turned up the volume on the station. Jesus was the ultimate example of this. He said, "And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me." He wasn't talking about his physical body on a cross. He was talking about his consciousness being lifted up, elevated, anchored in the absolute truth of the Father. He was saying that when an individual consciousness fully realizes its oneness, it becomes a gravitational pull for all consciousness. It draws all minds, all hearts, toward that same center of truth. Your quiet meditation, your moment of forgiveness when you'd rather hold a grudge, your choice to declare, "I am peace," in the middle of chaos, these aren't small, personal victories. They are acts of radical service to the whole. You are, in the most real sense, turning on a light in a shared room. You might think you're just sitting alone in the dark, but the moment your switch flips, everyone in that room receives more light. They might choose to keep their eyes closed, they might curse the light, but it's there, illuminating the path home. Your awakening creates a wake, and in that wake, others find it just a little easier to remember who they are. The collective doesn't awaken person by person, like dominoes. It awakens as the density of truth-bearers, of clear points within the field, reaches a critical mass, making the illusion of separation simply too flimsy to maintain. You aren't working on the world. You are healing the one mind, and the world, which is its projection, cannot help but reflect that healing back. This is the natural conclusion, then, the only logical endpoint for this entire journey of understanding. It's the shift from theory to abiding reality, from occasional practice to permanent residence. If all of this is true, if the I am is the trigger, consciousness is the field, and your awakening lifts the whole, then there's only one way to live. Not in reaction, but in constant, conscious creation. This is our final, anchoring Keynote live from the I am, not the ego is. Living from the ego is our default factory setting. It's exhausting. It's a full-time job of managing a mirage. The ego is that voice that says, I started, so I must finish. I was offended, so I must retaliate. I like this, so I must cling. I hate that, so I must avoid. It's a ceaseless commentary of want and fear, based entirely on the past and projected into the future. It's the software of separation running on a loop, and it uses your own I am against you, binding it to 1,000 temporary, passing conditions. For I am a success because of that deal. I am a failure because of that rejection. It's a roller coaster you never agreed to ride, and the ticket price is your peace. To live from the I am is to step off that ride. Permanently, it's not about destroying the ego, that's just more ego warring with itself. It's about seeing it for what it is, a useful tool for navigating time and space, but a terrible master for defining your identity. It's about letting the commentary play on the radio in the other room, while you rest in the silent living room of your being. The practice is to catch yourself in the act of ego identification and make the gentle, deliberate pivot. You feel a surge of anger. The ego screams, I am furious! This is who I am right now. Living from the I am witnesses the storm and simply says, I am. And there is a sensation of anger here. You hear news that triggers fear. The ego collapses into, I am terrified. What's going to happen to me? Living from the I am takes a deep breath into the eternal present and affirms, I am. And a wave of fear is passing through this form. This isn't repression. It's the ultimate liberation. You are no longer a character drowning in the plot of your own life. You are the aware space in which the entire drama unfolds. This is how you become a true consciousness hacker. You stop hacking outward circumstances and start hacking the very source of your experience, your point of identification. You choose moment by moment to anchor in the I am that is prior to all conditions. From that anchored place, your responses to the world are no longer reactions, but creations. You don't forgive because you should, but because from the perspective of the I am, which sees no true separation, there is nothing to forgive, only misperception to correct within your own understanding. You don't give because you have a lot. You give because from the I am, which is infinite supply, the very concept of mine and yours melts away, and sharing is simply the natural flow of the one expressing through you. This is the secret Jesus embodied. The crucifixion wasn't a tragedy he endured. It was the final brutal test of his abiding place, when the world screamed, You are a criminal! You are rejected! You are dying! His interior reality, anchored in the I am, could only whisper back, Father, forgive them, and today you will be with me in paradise. He wasn't transcending the pain from some remote, detached heaven. He was meeting the extreme conditions of the human experience from the unshakable fortress of his true identity. He was showing us that the kingdom of heaven isn't a location you go to, but a dimension you live from. So the question for us isn't, how do I get more spiritual experiences? It's, in this ordinary moment, standing in line, stuck in traffic, facing a difficult conversation? Can I remember to live from the I am? Can I feel the frustration and still know, I am peace? Can I see the lack and still declare, I am abundance? This is the work. This is the practice. It's the daily, humble art of letting the costume of personality do its dance in the world, while you, the silent actor, never forget you are the light behind the eyes, the awareness behind the thought, the eternal I am that was never born and will never die. From here, life is no longer something that happens to you. It is something that happens through you, as you, for the awakening of the all.